Okay. Okay, we ready?
Go ahead.
Okay. As I was putting together this, looking at the month of March with the 3 moons, 2 full moons and a new moon. The full moon on the 31st, of course, they call a blue moon. I found a lot of, and the equinox, a lot of similarities. I mean, all of the connections, etc. But I found a lot of interesting things. This is a very, very powerful month. We have 2 full moons, March 1st in Virgo and March 31st in Libra. 1 new moon on March 17th, which is St. Patrick's Day here in the U.S. I don't know if you celebrate it down in Australia, but we do up here.
Yes, we do. Yes.
Okay. I'll talk about that in a minute. We also have the spring equinox, as you know, which is the astrological new year. Jupiter going retrograde, which is today, actually, in a few hours. Mercury goes retrograde on the 22nd. Cardinal square is still the backdrop of all of March and April and May and on. We still have Uranus squaring, we have Uranus and Eris squaring Pluto. Mars enters Capricorn and goes out of bounds for about 3 weeks. And then a lot of other aspects that are going on. So it's really a very powerful month with a lot of the energies being chaotic, being very stressful. There's also the ability for some of these energies to go volatile, especially with Mars entering the picture now. And of course, we don't want it to go that way, so we manifest that it be done with ease and grace. So there's a lot to talk about, but also because there's so much going on and there's so many different aspects and everything that it gets almost a little overwhelming. So if you have any questions, feel free while I'm talking if you want to ask anything. Or afterwards. That's fine with me. Okay? One thing I'd like to point out in all these charts, like I said, most of the aspects are very similar because they're all within a few weeks of each other. I think it's quite interesting that Jupiter is going retrograde today, this afternoon. I think it's like around, I want to say 11 or something. Jupiter is usually a very peaceful planet, a very fun planet. You know, people love to laugh, have fun. A joyful planet has a lot of benefits. But, you know, when planets go retrograde, then you internalize them. And that doesn't make it bad, but you just do a lot of thinking, and you go inward a little bit more, and you you know, you think about things, you make plans, so it brings about a lot of thoughts. With Jupiter, with all the chaos and everything going on, I think there'll be a lot of thoughts and a lot of kind of like pop quizzes, I like to refer to them, from the universe about our belief systems and what our real truth is. So there'll be a lot of internalizing that way. Also, because it's in Scorpio, it can go really internalized deep into the soul, and even bring up some things that are we don't really want to look at. And so we've been having a lot of fun kind of pushing them off a little bit. With it going retrograde, we'll have to deal with some of that and go inward in that way. Re-examining your choices and your values, and like I said, being drawn to the depths of the soul because of Scorpio. So when you do the work of Jupiter, you internalize, you think about, yes, this is my truth, this is my belief system, etc., and then bring it forward when Jupiter goes direct. The one thing about Jupiter that I was thinking a lot about is the fact that it expands. So Jupiter expanding, the energies that are very powerful right now, could be, like I said, volatile, or it could be very, very much into the higher knowledge and the higher spirituality. That's our choices, of course, and we can manifest on that, but not everybody's in that place. So knowing that Jupiter can expand some of the energies that are out there, has me just a little concerned there. And so anyway, when we're thinking of Jupiter as it goes retrograde today, keep all the high thoughts going, keep all the high manifesting going, the higher end of Jupiter, master teachers, etc., and keep the expansion more internalized and softer kind of a thing. So I wanted to mention that right away. So two full moons, one new moon, the equinox, and everything else. I said there's a lot of energy flying around. I want to speak about Eris for a minute. Eris, I did a talk on that about a year ago on Eris. Of course, she's a dwarf planet, and we have dwarf humans. They're just as human. Eris is a dwarf planet, and she's really letting her energy and herself be known. I noticed a lot more astrologers are using Eris than when I first started using her. She's in the cardinal square, of course. She's with Uranus. She's still and will be with Uranus for quite a while, until Uranus moves out of Aries, of course. The cardinal square between Eris, Uranus, and Pluto will continue to go even when Uranus moves out of Taurus, because Eris is going to be there. Her energies of discord, chaos, disruption to jealousy are really flying high out there right now, all around the world, and especially here in the United States. Remember, she started the Trojan War. There seems to be these little hot spots that are popping up all over the world and in other countries too. The thing that I find interesting is that people are starting to really notice the chaos and the discord, etc. And I found it very interesting. And I think it was the weekend after Valentine's Day, that the President of the United States, in one of his tweets, had actually used the words discord, chaos, and disruption in his tweet. And I found that to be extremely interesting, that he would choose those words at a time when Eris is really making herself known. I think she might be working through him, actually, because there is a lot of chaos, a lot of disruption going on, and a lot of it is activated by the President of the United States right now. The whole world is feeling it big time. Movements have been activated by the cardinal square with Eris. One of the things that I noticed, and this was a combination of when Jupiter moved into Scorpio and Eris and the cardinal square, etc. When Jupiter moved into Scorpio, we had instantly all of the chaos surrounding the Me Too movement here in the United States, with the women standing up for their rights, etc., when being taken advantage of. And this has a lot to do with Jupiter going into Scorpio was the sexual part, and then the chaos and the disruption with the cardinal square and Eris. And since then, the energies have gotten even stronger, and especially the Eris energy. And we now have not only the Me Too movement going on, we have the This Is Me movement going on. You know, this is who I am. I don't have to look like Barbie or something. I am who I am movement going on. We have the young school kids that are marching and protesting after the shootings in Florida. And we have major stores throughout the United States, and I'm not sure in other countries, that are choosing on their own not to sell assault rifles and guns to, not to sell them at all, not to sell guns, period, to anyone under 21. It's like we've been activated into, you know, we will stand up for what we want. We won't just follow any law that doesn't serve the purpose of the integrity and respect of each individual and of humanity. And this is part of that energy that's really, really strong out there right now. Another thing I want to point out is that, another thing I want to point out real quick is that Mars is moving into Capricorn. And Mars, when it moves into Capricorn, I have that down here. And as it, on March 17th, there it is, excuse me. Mars moves into Capricorn and it goes out of bounds. And through April 1st, it goes out of bounds. And when it is out of bounds, it becomes very kind of wild energy. It gets kind of a wild energy. Mars, of course, is, you know, the warrior energy anyway, and it can ignite things and take action. It's also about passion, and it can be that warrior energy also. So when it goes out of balance like that, it can get kind of wild. It can get a little unpredictable. Unhinged is another way to put it. So Mars out of bounds can likely throw out the rule book and how we handle Mars energy, because the expression, you know, the passion, the intensity, and the anger, because it'll be a little bit wild, it'll be a little bit unhinged. It's kind of independent and creative and self-expressive. But as it comes in and it connects with Saturn and then moves on to connecting with Pluto, all in Capricorn, it's a time period to really watch with what you're like doing. Watch where you're walking. Watch what you say. Watch what you do. Watch others, because it can be a time of accidents and it can be a time of disruptions. You know, like anger and warrior type of disruptions. March 17th, that's the new Pisces moon. And it is St. Patrick's Day. Yeah, as you can see, Mars is right at the end of Sag, and later that afternoon, it does move into Capricorn. It puts it within the 10-degree orb, of course, of Saturn. And then we have Pluto. And so it's like we have three powerhouse planets, Mars, Saturn, and Pluto, all in Capricorn. And so it will be quite a powerful day with Mars and Saturn conjunction, and then having Pluto. But I also want to point out that the new Pisces moon, with Neptune sitting there in Pisces with it, and Chiron, that's a lot of Piscean energy. And that's a lot of course, very high spiritual energy and creative energy and fun energy and fog energy, and not really seeing the rules if you don't want to see the rules. And when you look at that, and you know it's St. Patrick's Day and everyone's celebrating and having fun, and you know all these little green people are running around, etc. And I enjoy St. Patrick's Day myself. But with all this Piscean energy, and then this Mars-Saturn conjunction in Capricorn along with Pluto, the couple of things to watch out for, of course, is getting into more of the anger instead of the passion. But also the passion can be there with Pisces. But a lot of that fogginess. And with the Pisces energy, the Pisces new moon, which the new moon is the most Piscean energy of the whole lunar cycle, that can bring in some addictions. That can bring in some over celebrating. And it's something to watch for. It's a fun day, a lot of celebrating, but also a day to be a little cautious. And again, just kind of keep an eye on what you're doing to the people around you, etc. Because that Mars, depending, can be triggered. And next to Saturn, conjuncting in there with Saturn's in Capricorn, so is integrity. It's about integrity. It's about respect. It's about not letting people in power take over you. You have the ability to stand up for your own integrity and respect, both giving it and receiving it. Pluto and Capricorn's doing the same thing. They're really emphasizing that integrity and respect, and you can see that in the news, etc., going on also. It's time people are standing up for, and they want respected, and they stand up for their integrity. So that can be there can be a little anger there that might get activated during that time. So Mars also, I want to point out at this new moon, Mars also is sitting on the galactic center. So the galactic center, as you probably know, of course, is a portal to the universe. And when you're talking about that portal to the universe, and Mars is right there getting ready to go into Capricorn, and the Capricorn energy on the galactic center. Again, it goes beyond like government on our local planet and of all the different countries, and it dips into the intergalactical, and so this energy and these that we're being downloaded with, at the galactic center, when it gets activated, we get downloaded with energies, and we also get like DNA activations, etc. It has a lot to do with the intergalactical and not just the international. And then Pisces, when you think of Pisces, the unconditional love and the channeled creativity and the very high spiritual, working with angels and guides. I just kept getting this feeling that there's a connection there beyond our world, that will be kind of opening up with that energy of Mars on the galactic center during this new moon. So that was something that I kind of felt. So one thing that I noticed on the chart here in Washington, D.C., is that Jupiter in Scorpio is in the 7th house. And the 7th house is the house of open enemies. And so I'm wondering if this isn't bringing in someone of this earth, or maybe galactically, that's a master, that becomes more of a master in how to handle, the energies on a higher level. We got, Scorpio, of course, is very, very intuitive. Jupiter is the higher knowledge, religions, and philosophies, and maybe a way to work that in, someone that can work that in when it comes to the open enemies of, you know, the United States and of all the countries in our world, so that we can get together and heal a lot of this deep soul work for humanity in a way that doesn't become volatile. And so open enemies, when you're talking world stuff, is kind of a touchy thing, because you know, we sit with our enemies, and you know that, and you know, and like in big meetings, etc., you're sitting with your open enemies, and so it becomes very interesting. I look at that with a lot of the presidents and past presidents, and if I believe correctly, if I remember correctly, I should say, I think President Kennedy's chart showed a lot of activity in that seventh house of open enemies, and then he was assassinated. So there's things like that. Obama, President Obama, our last president up here, had a lot of activity in his seventh house also. He didn't get assassinated, but I mean, he dealt with a lot of open enemies very wisely, actually. So in Eris, we also have Venus and Mercury sitting there at the new moon, and I think that gives the ability and the energy to speak, again, to speak our truth. There's a lot in the whole month of March and the moons and the equinox of speaking our truth. You know, of standing up for ourselves, for integrity and with respect, etc. A big emphasis on in these moons. So also interesting, you know, when I talked about Mars on the galactic center, the fact that it is out of bounds at that time. So that's also, again, adding to kind of the chaos and the disruption of things, because that's kind of a very chaotic, kind of wild energy of Mars when it goes out of bounds. Any questions so far? Okay. I want to look at the spring equinox. So the spring equinox has a similar setup, but the sun is just entered. Okay, the sun has just entered Eris, and of course that is the astrological new year. And so this is kind of a picture of the backdrop of the energies for the next year. And again, they're very very interesting energies. A lot of what I talked about before is part of this. We have the sun in Eris now, and we have Mercury and Venus are actually conjunct, sitting on top of each other. A time to speak with love for people, a time to be creative, a time to be able to speak like with authority or you know, but with love and kind of softly with the Venus energy there. Very prominent for this year. Sun in Eris, again, a lot of that standing up for the self. And with countries too. Chiron's there, really conjunct the sun out of sign. And a deep healing. There's a deep healing that needs to be, and this is a theme throughout all these charts also. A deep healing of ourself and our belief and our spirituality. It's kind of healing that energy of being, trying to put it into words here, that energy of being taken away from source. So we're trying to work towards finding that connection with source, with the real source, and healing that energy of not being allowed to do that in the past, in the way within our own truth. That wound of separation is big in what I think of Chiron and Pisces being, in the Piscean energy. That wound of the wound of not being connected with source. The Sun and Mercury and Venus and Chiron and Neptune, they're all in the 10th house. And so that's all very public energy. And again, the healing of that wound, but also the ability to, it's almost like with all of that in the 10th house, when you're speaking publicly, and of course this is Washington for, like, the United States, it's time to balance that out with the love and the smooth energy to do that with. We have Venus up there in that 10th house in Eris, conjunct Mercury. We have Neptune in the 10th house, and Chiron in the 10th house, and they're both in Pisces. So it's a lot of that higher energy, that soft energy, that love energy, unconditional love. Neptune conjunct the midheaven. This is a theme for this year, that we kind of need to come back to that a little bit. There's, with all of the chaos, the discord, the kind of crazy, wild energy that's been going on, kind of bringing that back a little bit into the unconditional love and the love energy with integrity and respect. That's a big theme. We don't just give it, we need the integrity and we need the respect. In the equinox chart, we also have the moon in Taurus. So it's time to take care of the earth. There's a focus this year on the earth with the Taurus energy there. And Taurus energy, of course, ruled by Venus. Again, that kind of softness, the growing of your own food and your own flowers, very much Taurus energy. And the more I look at this chart, it has a lot of challenges in it. It has a lot of challenges, but it also is giving us the energy to take it to that higher level of love, to take it to the higher end of the higher level of integrity and respect. But also standing up for the integrity and respect that we need, but individually, as countries, and as the world, and humanity. In the 7th house of the equinox chart, we have Pluto and Saturn, and we have Mars really sitting on the cusp there. We have Mars and Saturn now conjunct, both in Capricorn, sitting there. Again, this is the house of open enemies. So it's the house of committed relationships. It's the house of marriages, of friends you love dearly, of partnerships in business, and the open enemies. So this is for kind of the whole year here, that Capricorn energy, the government and the military, the stock market, corporate America, etc., all those structures, banks, etc., that Capricorn represents. There's a lot of changes and energies that are being activated, and we're seeing that in Capricorn. And now we have Mars, which for like the next 3 weeks is out of bounds, sitting with Saturn, which rules Capricorn, so that energy is magnified even more. And then we have Pluto sitting in there. So the house of open enemies. There's going to be some back and forth on that open enemy part. And We can see that going on now. We have talks going on. We have threats going on. We have all kinds of chaos going on and disruptions. But I was very, very happy to see the Olympics went very, very well. They went smooth. There was no problems. I was a little concerned about that. So, if we can do that at the Olympics, I think that the energies is saying we can do that with countries and with the world also. We have to stand up for integrity and respect. I mean, we are who we are, and we're alive, and we need to be respected. The same with countries, when you get on the country level. But we need to do it with love. And we need to speak with not just with love, but with integrity. And with Uranus, part of the cardinal square, and the Taurus moon, which is ruled by Venus again, in the 11th house of groups, and going over and trining some of like the moon is trining Mars, etc. I mean, we're being given some good energy if we can grab a hold of that and expand on that energy, and not let the kind of crazy, wild energy, the chaotic energy, etc., get out of hand. The purpose really of the cardinal square, which started in 2010, and now we've added Eris to that, and of course occasionally we have T-squares and grand crosses, is transformation and radical evolution through transformation and through change. And it doesn't mean that the energy has to be volatile, and that we have to hurt people or nations, or that we have to set off bombs or anything like that. Transformation doesn't have to be that way. It's hard work, and if you're not doing the work, if it's too easy, then you're not doing the work. But we're actually being given some of the energies to bring it about more smoothly, and to bring it about with more love, and to bring it about with more spirituality. But yeah, looking at that 7th house, just keep that in mind about the open enemies. And that can be our own open enemies, someone you work with that you just kind of try to find line with. And of course, countries, look at that. And remember, this is happening, this is the equinox, is happening with Galactic, with the Galactic center being activated with Mars, etc. Mars still is in the orb of the Galactic center.
Excuse me, Cathy. What orb would you use with the Galactic center?
Pardon me?
What orb do you use for planets conjunct the Galactic center?
I use about, I don't go over 5 degrees.
Great, thank you.
Okay. With the Galactic center like that. And yeah. I think it's a very powerful point, the Galactic center, and the fact that we do get downloads from it and stuff when it gets activated. The Galactic center, of course, every time it gets activated, it gets a little wider. The opening gets a little wider. At the equinox and at the solstices, the most powerful time for those downloads from the whole galaxy is at the exact timing of the equinox, and the solstices are the same way. That's when the Galactic center, when the center actually opens up, and you get all those downloads, and it does activate. It activates many things. The equinox energy it's, of course, it's about balance, which is part of what the shift is about too, bringing things into balance. It gives us the gift of being able to connect galactically. And so a lot of our DNA gets activated, and it affects the earth and stuff, the magnetic plates, etc., and the pituitary gland. And so there's a lot that happens during the equinox and the solstices, and being open to all that. But like I said, the powerful time is at the exact time, which is in the afternoon. Here in Washington, D.C., it'll be at noon, 12:15 in the afternoon. And so it's, I know here in Des Moines, where I live, I always put on an equinox and solstice celebration. And we are intending that the weather be very nice. So it'll be at 11:15 here. And so that we can receive the energies and be actually outside on the earth at the same time. So it is a powerful opening, and a powerful energies that we receive during that time. Okay. Okay. Another interesting thing I wanted to point out is that we also have, it's called the Supergalactic Center. And the Supergalactic Center is at about 2 degrees of Libra. And so the equinox sun at 0 degrees Eris is just 2 degrees away from an opposition with the Supergalactic Center. So we have Mars affecting the Galactic Center, and we have an opposition of the equinox sun opposing the Supergalactic Center. And the Supergalactic Center is a center that at least 30 different galaxies rotate around, including our own. So there's a lot of activation going on with not only internationally but also intergalactically. So a lot of downloads from other star systems, from the ancient star systems. You know, a lot of us that interacted with a lot of the ancient star systems in past lives. So some of us are star child, you know, type of thing. We're actually activating 2 galactic centers, kind of, you know, at the time of the spring equinox. So another thing to think about for the imprint of the whole year, with the astrology being this is the astrological new year. Okay. On March 31st, I'll go over to the Libra moon, I should say the full Libra moon. And we have Jupiter back in the 7th house again. That can be positive. In this full moon or blue moon, we have a cardinal T-square going on. And we haven't had a T-square for a while. But we have a T-square with the Eris Sun and Mercury, with Pluto, no, excuse me, with Saturn and Mars, and of course Pluto's in there. But the actual T-squares between the Sun and Mercury in Aries, Saturn and Mars in Capricorn, and the Moon being in Libra. So we have a cardinal T-square going on. Again, that's added energy to the cardinal square, which is about birthing of new, transformation, constant change. And of course, it's been going on since 2010. And we've had a lot of transformation and change since 2010 in our own lives and also in the world and our governments, etc. So in this T-square, Saturn and Mars are one degree apart. Again, creating, it's almost like Mars is giving us the ability to take the action that we need to take for the representation in our government and military and all that, but also giving us the ability to take the steps for our own integrity and respect, personally and also within the governments, within like corporate America, corporate America I call it, but corporate everywhere in the world. So a lot of power just alone with Mars and Saturn being there together, but then you also have Pluto in Capricorn also. So then you come down to Libra, full moon, a Libra moon, very much again about balance, very much ruled by Libra, ruled by Venus, excuse me. So the Venus, the love, the creativity comes in there, kind of more like a soft spot when you think of the Saturn and the Mars squaring it along with Pluto and Capricorn. And then you come over to the Sun and Mercury, which is also part of the T-square in Eris. So again, that Eris energy, that pioneer energy, that crusade energy, that action energy with a lot of passion. And then Mercury's there, so that's our voice. And so how are we communicating ourselves? How are we communicating what we need? And standing up for what we need. And, in a nice way. You don't have to do it, burn bridges and cut cords, etc. You may have to, but that's not the goal. But to be able to take that action and to be able to do that, in this cardinal T-square, we got that cardinal energy backing it, but also connecting in the Mars-Saturn and connecting in the Moon. So even though Eris and Uranus and Pluto are out of the orb of the actual T-square, they're still in Aries and they're still in Capricorn. So that energy is still affecting or still going along with the T-square that's created by the full moon. So it shows a lot of different energies, a lot of chaotic energies, a lot of energies, even like jealousy energies, especially with Jupiter and Scorpio, a lot of that type of energy going on also. Just a lot of chaos, a lot of intensity, a lot of disruptions, a lot of discord. And again, those of us that know how to use the energy in a high manifestive way, we can try and buffer some of that energy that a lot of people don't know how to buffer it. They get into the energy and they make it even more volatile or the possibility for that. So the same themes run through all 3 moons this month, including the one that we already had, and the spring equinox. And so that there's a lot going on, a lot of ways that we can direct that energy, a lot of ways we can use that energy for transformation, for the change that we need. And when you think a lot about these movements that we're going through, the Me Too movement, or the This Is Me movement, the kids that are starting to to stand up for their rights or to make themselves known. It's a lot like the 60s part 1, which back in the 60s, we had a lot of the same stuff going on when Pluto and Uranus were conjunct. And it's almost like we're finishing that up. We're trying to finish that up this time with the Pluto and Uranus being squared in a square. And I refer to it as the 60s part 2 a lot. The Me Too movement and the I Am Me movement and those kind of movements resemble a lot of what we went through in the 60s as far as women getting their rights and the Negroes being able to sit anywhere they want on a bus, and they're getting their rights. And now it's like we're fighting for, I don't know if fighting is the right word, but we're letting it be known that we're standing up for ourselves now. The fight or the passion or the focus or the action is taken on, ourselves with integrity and respect, whether it's us personally or it's nations, etc. The themes are running back and forth from the 60s part 1, the 60s part 2. The demonstrations, like the kids were using, the riots that were in LA and everything back in the 60s, we're seeing the same type of thing, maybe a little bit different, but the same type of thing. And what they're demonstrating for and what we're standing up for are basically the same, but have taken a little different shift now. But very, very interesting how the 60s part 1 and the 60s part 2 are very, very similar. And I do believe we are kind of picking up where that left off in the 60s, and we're bringing it to a new arena where we can really handle it or change it or manifest that the changes go in a peaceful way, a peaceful, loving way. Neptune and Pisces. Every time Neptune's in Pisces, historically, you can look back, we've had a renaissance in the arts and a renaissance in spirituality. And that is also very prevalent right now. Chiron in Pisces is helping us heal that wound of separation. Does anyone have any comment or anything on how these moons and the equinox are connecting? How the themes run through all of them? No? Okay. When I was putting all this together, I found that it was a lot of information that really ran through, well, the whole month, but ran through all moons, the 3 moons that we have this month. But in particular, the equinox was very important, I thought, because of course the equinox is the astrological new year, and the themes and the energy of the equinox again is like the astrological new year, and the equinoxes, the solstices energies run for about 3 months, I'm looking for a sheet here. With this being the backdrop for the next few months and really the energies of the whole year, I wanted to see if these energies continued through April. So I quickly just ran April, the new Aries moon on the 15th and the full Scorpio moon on the 29th. And I just wanted to see if the energies shift any from the very, very powerful March energies. And of course, when I looked at the charts, I'm like thinking to myself, no, they aren't letting up. And I didn't go any farther but into April. So the universe is very, very, the universe is very urgent right now that these themes, that these changes that we're trying to make within humanity, ourselves, and the earth, that they get done, that the shift from 2010 to 2023, I believe, and Pluto moves out of Capricorn, if I'm correct on that date. The cardinal square finally moves away because we have Eris in there. This change, this transformation, etc., the universe is very urgent about it, and it's almost like you can't miss it. You know, if you're listening at all, you're understanding that changes have to be made, and changes aren't easy, but we have to make them. When I brought up the April 15th new moon, we have the Sun and the Moon at 26 degrees Aries. We have Uranus sitting at 28 degrees Aries, and we have Eris sitting at 23 degrees Aries. So we have Aries and Uranus on each side of the new moon on April 15th. So that will be a very interesting day. I'm just kind of chuckling because I know we can get through it. But that's a pretty powerful statement from the universe to have Uranus and Eris sitting on each side of the full of the new moon on that day. So it's like these energies are going to continue, and they're not going to go away real fast. And because the universe wants us to make these changes that aren't easy. And like I said, the cardinal square is going to be there till Pluto moves out of Capricorn. Also on that day, Pluto will be squaring, of course, the new moon and Uranus and Eris. So Pluto itself is going to be squaring them at the new moon on April 15th. So there's some other things going on also, but very, very powerful. And, you know, so we have more things going on in the next moon after that, but this one I wanted to really point out. So these themes are going to run all the way through, and we're learning to live with a lot of this energy. We're learning to kind of live with the chaos and things coming out of left field and right field, and as long as we keep in our intentions and our manifestations going in a positive, in a positive direction, we'll be able to handle this. We'll be able to, and it's like those of us that understand these energies and work with these energies and know we can manifest and pull on the higher energies. We can navigate this chaos better and these disruptions better. We can navigate the transformations. We can understand them. We can see that big picture down the road. We may not see the final, but we can see how it's progressing that way. And that's a gift, I believe, that we we have as astrologers that we give our clients, etc. The ability to learn how to navigate the energies out there. Whenever I do a reading, personal readings of people's natal charts, which I love doing, I always make sure I let them know the main energies that are happening that's affecting their chart. Like if Pluto or Uranus or Eris or some major transit is going on affecting their chart, I let them know that. And because it's one thing to know their own energies, and that helps them navigate, but when they walk out the door, they also have to be able to have an idea of what's going on out there in the world and how to navigate that a little bit, and how that's affecting them. I find that very important. It's hard for me to separate. And I know some astrologers just do natal and then they'll do a transit, which I don't do all the transits when I do their natal, but I do look where the cardinal square is, etc., because they have to know what's going on out in the real world, basically, so they can navigate those energies by using the energies that they've just discovered in their charts. I hope that made sense. Any questions? Anyone? No? Okay. So I with the spring equinox chart being the backdrop and Mars being conjunct Saturn in Capricorn, with Pluto there, the obvious energies of Eris and Uranus, learning to navigate these energies, watching how it plays out in the world, knowing that if things get really, really kind of crazy, that we know where to focus, we know where it's coming from, and that will help us and everybody that we're in contact with.
Cathy, this is Wendy.
Hi.
Hey, how are you? When you were talking about Eris, I have a Capricorn moon at 24 degrees.
Okay.
And Mars at 23 Libra. So
okay.
Uranus has been opposing Mars and squaring my moon. It's the third pass. It's the final pass. It's gone. Goodbye. Yay. And Eris is going to be there forever.
Yeah.
And I think she's at 23 degrees now, or 22. But she'll be moving to 23 and opposing Mars. And my Mars, whenever the Mars is activated in a challenging way throughout my life, I have to be careful in the car because I have Mars in the 5th house. And I can get into trouble with that. So I was thinking, well, that's an energy I'm going to have to really embrace for a long time.
Yeah, and with the Mars, like I said, it's out of bounds right now. And this summer it goes out of bounds again. And I'm just learning about the out of bounds stuff, but it does send it into another energy, kind of a little wilder energy than it normally has too. So I would be a little more cautious during that time.
Yeah.
And your moon's at 23, my sun's at 25, Capricorn.
Oh, yeah. My moon's 24, almost 25, I think.
Yeah, and so that being squared by Uranus.
Yeah.
And having Pluto within, 5 degrees or something of
right.
it.
Yeah.
it's been quite a challenge. So it's on my sun. But I had Pluto on my moon in 2010.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so learning to handle the energies. Learning to handle doesn't mean that, oh, okay, well, I base this, I don't have to worry about it. It's more or less being conscious of the energies so that you can navigate and use them positively when you can, manifest when they're, not real positive at the moment. Bringing in the higher energies is a way to handle a lot of that.
Cathy, could you give us a quick recap on the positive side of Eris?
Yeah, I tend to mention the not so positive because that's so much out in I mean, we can see that happening. Eris, one of the meanings of Eris is like competition, and good competition is we need good competition in a lot of arenas. For instance, say there's a couple grocery stores around that's selling junk food mainly. We have a couple grocery stores that come in with more healthy foods. There's a competition between them. The good competition, and I don't mean where they get into fights or anything, but just the competition at the grocery stores. The good competition is that the healthy stores would become more predominant for the health and the good of all humanity, and the junk food stores per se either up their merchandise a little bit or they go out of business. That's one of the kind of positive aspects of Eris. Another positive aspect of Eris is that it can ignite, chaos and disruption but out of that chaos comes creativity, and out of creativity comes the new. So with Eris coming in and actually shaking things up and making things chaotic and etc., is getting rid of the old so that we have to use our creativity to build the new. And that's a positive side of the chaotic, disruptive energy that she's bringing in.
Great. Thank you very much, Cathy. So we will wind down here. Thank you very much. That was amazing as usual. Thank you for all of us. And we'll see you next time, Cathy.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Cathy.
Thank you.
That was great.
Thank
Cathy.
you.
Going to listen and take notes. Thank you.
Thank you.